Hey everybody, it's the old naked man here. How's everybody doing today? Hope you're having an awesome day. Have you ever had a run-in with a dog that was totally disastrous or could have been disastrous? Well, I've got a few stories. When I was younger, I used to deliver home heating oil in London, Ontario. And there's this one house in particular I remember. Um, every time I went there, they had this dog in the backyard. The backyard was surrounded with a chain link fence, and of course, the filler spout for the oil tank is right outside of the gate. And every time I go there, this dog would come up to the gate and he'd stand there, his hair standing on end, and growling and barking at me. And I swore if that dog ever got out of there, I was dead. So this one day in particular, I go up there, and sure enough, same as ever, I get the nozzle in the filler spout, and the dog just comes tearing across the yard. And as soon as he heard me, and he hits that gate, well, all of a sudden, the gate swings open. Well, I don't know who was more surprised, me or the dog, because we just sat there for a minute, and the dog didn't know what to do. It just was frozen. Uh, I thought sure he's going to tear me apart, but he didn't. He just stood there totally confused. So I just reached over and closed the gate, and then the dog went on barking and growling at me like he always did. So that could have been disastrous, but for some reason, it turned out to be okay. And another time, I was looking to buy a truck for the farm, and I found one advertised at this dealership, so I went to take a look at it. And the salesman was in the office talking to another customer, and he said, "Well, the truck's just out back. You can go and take a look at it." So I head out back and get out to where the truck was, and they got this big German Shepherd tied on a chain. You know, he's close enough to the truck that if I'd have tried to get near it, he could have reached me. So I thought, well, there's no sense aggravating the situation. So I went back in and talked to the salesman. He said, "Oh yeah," he said, "I forgot about the dog being out there." Apparently it was a guard dog to look after the compound at night and look after vehicles and stuff. So he says, just hang on a minute, and I'm just finished up here. I'll come out with you. So okay, no problem. So we head out to the truck, and I proceed and walk up to the driver's door, open the door, looking inside, and all of a sudden I hear this snap of the chain. It didn't break, but the dog took after the salesman. And if that chain had broken, he would have torn the salesman apart. And I thought, this is not a very good scenario. So I went around to the back of the truck, and I couldn't believe that the dog took after the salesman. I mean, I thought the salesman knew the dog and that, but they had to get the manager, the owner of the dog, to come out, and he moved the truck out of the way so I could get a better look at it. So I don't know why the dog went after the salesman, but he did and left me alone. But I was awful thankful that he did. So anyway, the next story I remember, I used to ride a motorcycle back and forth to work. I lived in the country near Tillsonburg, Ontario. And I'm driving home from work at night, and it's dark. It's in the fall. It wasn't bad weather. It wasn't cold, like there's no snow on the ground yet, but it was getting dark pretty early. So I'm driving along, and all of a sudden my bike runs out of gas. And oh, well, not a problem. I always put it on reserve. Well, it already was on reserve, so both the main tank and the reserve tank was empty. So I happened to run out of gas right at the driveway of this big farmhouse. Oh well, I'll go and see if I can't buy a gallon or two of gas off this farmer. So I get walking down the laneway, and it's quite a long laneway. And I get part way down, and this German Shepherd, he just comes tearing out the driveway, hair on end, teeth showing and growling. And I thought, well, if I turn around and run, there's no way I can outrun this dog. And so I just thought, well, I'm just going to keep on walking. And so I did. I just walked on up towards the farmhouse. And that dog, he went around behind me, and he was only a couple feet behind me, but he followed me all the way up to the house. Well, I knock on the door, and these two old ladies come to the door and asked me what I was doing. So I told them I ran out of gas. And they looked at me and they says, I don't know how you got up here. He says, you're the only person that's ever made it to this door after dark. Because that dog just won't allow anybody in here. And I says, well, you know, I knew if I turned around and run, I was going to get bit. And I thought, well, the best thing I could do is carry on the way I was going. And I didn't really pay any attention to the dog. I knew he was there, but she says, well, I don't know how you got in. But anyway, I managed to get a couple gallons of gas off of them and went on my way. But that could have really been disastrous. That dog was, he was a good watchdog. So, another story I remember, I used to work outside of London, or I lived outside of London, and I worked in London, Ontario. So I'm going home one afternoon. It was a beautiful sunny afternoon, driving along, and of course that time of day there's always a lot of traffic on that highway. It was a pretty main highway to the town I lived in. And so I'm driving along, and I see this guy walking his dog out the driveway on my right-hand side of the road. And so I wasn't paying any attention. I figured, you know, everything's under control. Well, all of a sudden, this dog takes off chasing a car that was coming towards me in the other opposite lane. Well, he ran right out in front of me. And to this day, I don't know what happened. I hit the brakes, managed to turn my car sideways. I hit the dog with the passenger side of my car and knocked him into the ditch. So then I pulled over and stopped, and the owner of the dog, he come up, he says, I don't know how you avoided killing that dog. He says, he should be dead right now. But he says, he's fine. He says, you scared him to death, but he's ran back up to the house and he's fine. And I ended up with my 69 Barracuda, of course, my lemon. It had a great big dent in the passenger's door. So, but I was awful glad to see that the dog was fine and not injured too bad. So, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed these stories, and I hope you come and join me on my next video. So, you guys have yourself an awesome afternoon.